All right, I think we are live here. I'm going to try to manage this. I've only got one monitor hooked up, so we're going to be kind of going over a video. We're going to be going over a video that a guy on a channel where a guy's building a 7.3. We swapped a truck from a 460, an OBS from a 460 to a 7.3. And it's cool. I love that he's doing it. But one of the things, like we've talked about before, is I want to be able to answer questions. And it's hard to answer questions. Like a lot of times, if we just post that we want you to ask us questions that we can answer on the podcast, a lot of questions are not simple. Like it's not just like a factual answer. It's that we need to collect the reason why you're asking, and we need to collect. Usually we just have more questions before we can answer yours. So if your mama, I don't know if that's actually my mama that's commenting here, or if this is just somebody's YouTube name is your mama. But your mama, since you're watching, if you can leave a comment here and let me know how it sounds. So I see that you're writing, so to make sure it looks and sounds good and it's clean, and then we can go ahead and get started. So I'm going to do my best here. All right, so this is the video right here. This is the channel. Let me make sure we get swapped over. There we go. This is the channel. It's My Garage is the channel name, and it is really cool. I mean, he took a OBS, looks like a white OBS, and he swapped it from a 460 to a 7.3, which is awesome. That's a lot of work. And what happened is because he had mentioned, I don't remember how I found this, but he had mentioned that he had our tuning, and I think he got some parts from us too. Not sure who this is. I should probably figure out what your name is. If you see this, let us know. But what, forgot to record again. There we go. What happened is there's a lot of just statements that he makes in here that are not correct, which is fine, and I'm not dogging on him. I think this is an awesome thing that he's doing. But it makes a really good way that we can try to answer questions that are just like common misunderstandings. And that's kind of the point of why I want to do this. Absolutely in no way want to talk bad about what he's doing, his channel, anything else. If you want to watch his videos, definitely go do. He did a lot of cool stuff. I think it's great. But there's a lot of questions that we can answer here that I think might be helpful. So we're going to go ahead and we'll just watch this video. I'll respond with things as I see them, and we can just enjoy this. Oh, wait. I didn't do a proper intro. I'll add it later. That's all right. For those of you who are just listening to this later, you can jump on YouTube. It'll be on here. All right. So let's go ahead and play this.
I'm getting ready. We're going to hook up my little dump trailer, and I'm going to run it off to the dump and kind of just put a few miles on the truck and see how it does. So one thing that this started doing when I did its initial little test drive, the serpentine belt on is just squeaking like crazy now. I've already ordered the parts to do the dual tensioner update, that service bulletin that Ford put out. So looks like it'll probably be about 2 weeks before those parts get here. So when they come in, I'll do another video. I'll make sure to record it this time, and we'll kind of go through the steps of how we fix that. So but for today, let's actually go out and enjoy this truck. I guess so, to give you an idea of what we're working with here, this is the...
Okay, one thing I want to say here is he obviously put a lot of work into this. Like anybody who doesn't record and edit videos, it's not like easy, especially different angles. And you can see here in a second, he's got like a GoPro on. Like he's put a lot of work into this. I'm impressed. Good job, man. That's a lot to do for a project on top of the actual project itself. So Good job.
The dump trailer I have, it's actually just a long bed off of a 92 F250 I picked up and chopped and turned it into a trailer. I actually ended up just needing it for the transmission and the engine. Actually, the engine out of this is the one I rebuilt and put into the 94, which is now sitting in the garage. But basically just have a bunch of like old carpets and cardboard, and I think I have a scooter in there. You know, we redid the flooring in our house, and so with the trailer plus what's in it, it's probably pretty close to about 2,000 pounds total. So I've towed this trailer before with a fair amount of dirt and rock and other stuff in it, and with the 460 it would kind of struggle going up this hill. So I'm going to go up that same hill today, and I want to see how it does. Basically just
yeah, that 7.3 is going to do a lot better.
Gonna leave the truck in the well, 1023 has a tune called Daily Driver Light, which is like their eco mode. So I'm gonna actually just leave it in that tune and tow this, because even the light tow is good up to like 5,000 pounds. So I really don't need to do it. I don't think it's gonna stress the truck out. So I'll kind of just give you guys like a driver's perspective of what it's like driving it. This squeak is gonna drive me absolutely crazy. All right, so I'm hoping you can kind of see the gauges and all that. I don't really know how well this is gonna turn out in the video. Just to kind of give you an idea, I put my little control for the tuner down here. I'm not happy with it at all, and I just found out Riff Raff sells a longer ribbon cable. So I'm gonna end up mounting it right up here, and I think the flush mount that they have will fit through there. So then what I can do is just cut this open, put it right here, and then have it all clean and flush and tucked behind, and then I'll actually be able to see it while I'm driving. So my tunes here, well, we'll start here with number 1.
Okay, one thing I'll say to that is the flush mount from Riff Raff is really cool. I should have grabbed one. I can bring it up here just to like mount the hydro controller in the dash. It's awesome. The problem is you can't, like, I don't think we can just buy new dashes anymore. And so I struggled for a long time even wanting to sell them, because it would be sort of a bummer to put a hole in your dash and then have it there forever. It doesn't go away.
Number 1 is no start. So being in this mode, it'll just crank, it'll never fire. But once you have the engine running and you put it back to that mode, it puts it to whatever the last calibration file was. So then I have number 2, yes, which is the high idle. So you can see my RPMs jumped up to 1100. Number 3 is quiet idle. Number 4 is what they call daily driver, which is basically their tuning of taking those 205cc injectors and making them run as if they were the stock 90cc injectors. So here's what that one sounds like. You can hear the idle change. Okay, number 5 is my eco mode, so it's really not a whole bunch difference.
Okay, one thing I'll say to that too is, well, 2 things he said. One, that our light tow is good for towing like up to 5,000 pounds or whatever. I don't remember exactly what he said there. There's nothing that we can do in tuning. There's nothing that we do that depicts how much weight you can tow. It's usually, the biggest thing is it's going to be a matter of, as long as you can manage temperature, as long as you can manage EGTs, like you don't have too much fuel or not enough air or leaks or whatever, as long as you can manage temperatures, then it should be fine. I don't care what like tune you tow in. At the end of the day, like naming tunes only should have to do with like maybe what you, like the intended use could be for it, but it doesn't matter. Like at least for us, everybody does things differently, but for us, it's not like, you know, we run like things in the past that have been said, like you run like way too aggressive timing or something like that when you're in a race tune. I don't think we sell anything that's a race tune, and everything should be set up, you know, correctly, like pulse width, start of injection, So timing, pressures should be, they should, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It should be consistent and it should be set up correctly, and it shouldn't matter what the intended use of the truck is. Yes, you can make too much power and you can hurt the truck. That is possible. But more than likely, like in a case like this, you're going to run into EGT problems before that's going to happen. Or your truck just wasn't ready for it. Like you didn't have rods, so you can't tow at 500 horsepower.
Number 6 is the Street Shredder tune. Number 7 is the Cummins Killer. 8 is Ludicrous Mode. So we'll play with those 3 tunes on this drive. 9 is the Light Tow. 10 is Medium Tow. And 11 is their Heavy Tow file. And talking with Dusty.
Okay, one more thing. We don't offer nearly that many tunes anymore. We've narrowed down the options to where, well, we don't actually have options. We have one set that we sell that covers everything that you could need to use. We don't have a lot of the options. We don't have Ludicrous anymore. It was redundant. We can't build tunes just for the purpose of being a race tune anyway. Its purpose is to, if you're trying to inject fuel, that's its job. Like we can inject fuel and we can set timing and pressures accordingly, which is only a command anyway, because the truck is going to respond different based on whether your high pressure oil pump actually keeps up or not, things like that. But yeah, we only offer 6 tunes and it's one set, and that's all we sell anymore. So some of the things on here like Quiet Idle, Ludicrous, we don't have anymore.
He was saying, depending on the health of the transmission, I should be able to tow about 18,000 pounds. So I'm going to put it back here into the eco mode.
All right. Another thing with that, more than likely, this is a common thing that comes up when people are talking to us. Like I will never say, we would have never said like, you can tow a certain amount of weight with a certain tune from us. Again, kind of like I said earlier, it has more to do with the setup on the truck and whether it's able to maintain exhaust temperatures, oil temp, coolant temp, and the hard parts on the truck. A lot of times what happens there is, if somebody asks us, well, do you think I'll be able to tow, I have 18,000 pound trailer, can I tow in a daily tune? Well, with a setup like this, I think he said he's got a 364.5 and 205/80s. The answer is probably so. You probably can tow in that tune. But you're just going to have to run it and see. So yeah, I wouldn't directly ever just say, yes, you should tow 18,000 pounds in our whatever tune you want to pick. In this case, I think it was Daily Driver. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. You just have to run it and see. Maybe the truck will keep up, maybe it won't.
And we'll take this for a little drive. So now my ABS light is still on because I haven't done anything at all yet to even try and fix that. So the takeoff power on this, your initial stepping on the throttle, is way more aggressive than it ever was with a stock Powerstroke, and even with the gas engine in it. It's actually been kind of like learning to drive again with needing real light throttle input. So like I say, I've only driven it around the block. I got it up to about 40 miles an hour, or 45 I think is what I did, and mainly, like I say, just to kind of get it warmed up so I could check the transmission fluid and try and get the rest of the air bled out of the H-pop system. So one thing I think
one thing I'll say to that is definitely something you need to do. When you first start running a truck after having injectors out of it or replacing the high pressure oil pump, anytime you open up the oil system, you definitely need to put some miles on it, and honestly drive it hard. You don't need to beat on the truck, but hook it up to a trailer, tow with it, get RPMs up, get ICP up, get injection pressure up, put it under load to get the air out of the system. Because if there's air anywhere in the system, whether it be under the ICP sensor, in the oil rails or whatever, it's gonna have some runnability problems. It's probably not gonna idle right. usually, it can take up to like 100 miles or so. That's pretty much the standard to run correctly after you have the high pressure oil system open.
I am going to have an issue with, and I'm really kind of curious to see how it plays out, because I haven't been able to find a lot of information on it. I don't know what the boost output of this turbo is, and I don't know at what boost point my check engine light's going to turn on. A little bit of the research I did, it looks like when it hits 26 pounds of boost, it'll go into an overboost protection mode where it starts defueling the engine. I don't know if this turbo puts out that much pressure, so
okay, there's another common misconception there too. There's two codes that people attribute to being an overboost code. So overboost and defueling are things that get thrown around a lot. P0238 is one of them that gets attributed to being a overboost code. P0238 is a fault code. It is a fault code, meaning that there's an electrical problem with your map sensor. Now, it's above desired is what that means. So OBS trucks, we have seen they'll throw a P0238 because they've gone like way out of range. And I don't know exactly what happens. I really wish Vaughn would come on and talk about this stuff with me, because he can explain it from an engineering standpoint. But the map sensor will go kind of crazy. So like on OBS trucks, if you don't have a boost fooler, then and pressure goes way above 20, 25, 30 pounds. There's no set number. The sensor will just start throwing voltage values all over the place. And so that'll cause, a lot of people see, it feel like you're on a rev limiter when you're not. You could be at 2,000 RPM rolling into it, and it'll have, it'll just start like boom, 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 like you're on a rev limiter, and you're not on a rev limiter. So having a boost fooler in place will protect it from that. That also can cause the 0238 code. The other code is P1249, which is actually the overboost code, meaning that boost pressure is above desired, not voltage. Not like a voltage error, a VREF error. If boost is above this factory value desired, the truck can defuel in that by RPM and by whatever the pressure is above 22 pounds, it can start reducing fuel up to reducing by 0.7 milliseconds of pulse width. A lot of people leave that in place still. A lot of tuners don't. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, they're two different things. One thing with that though too is when it comes to boost foolers, there's lots of different styles out there, but the one that you would want is going to be a regulator style fooler, so that up to the 22 pounds or so, 22 psi of boost that tuners will control the map sensor to, it'll read correctly. So it'll be whatever the pressure is what the map sensor is going to read. The boost foolers like the electronic, just a resistor. I think BD sells one. They're terrible because they change the values of the map sensor, and so what we're referencing for tuning, what the map sensor is seeing, is not going to be correct. And then the other styles, like a blow-off style, I think Diesel Sight sells one. They're also not going to be an accurate value to what is happening in the engine, and we need to reference that for tuning for it to run correctly. So a couple more points there.
I'm going to kind of test it when we're on the freeway and see what my boost does.
One more thing there. Boost does not matter. I mean, it does matter sort of, but a lot of stuff that gets thrown around is like that if you need head studs above 40 pounds of boost, or that if it's like we should with a certain setup see a certain amount of boost. And that's sort of true like as a reference point, but it's not accurate to anything that actually matters when it comes to making power, controlling GTs or whatever. What matters is like your air density for like how much air you're getting in the cylinders so you can mix with fuel and burn. And higher pressure, pressurizing air creates heat. And so you need a more efficient air cooler or whatever. So all those things matter. But ultimately boost pressure itself is it's just one tiny piece of the puzzle for air density, and it doesn't mean a whole lot, or volume of air.
Already, my impression on this seat is I'm in love. The other seat that I had, it was kind of, I don't know, I guess plush would be a good word for it. It was real bouncy. I think mainly because it didn't have any contour to it. They put a lot of spring into it.
This is about seats, sorry. Rob, you had asked if we should set the regulator to 22 pounds or a little bit lower. It doesn't matter. Anything around like 20 pounds to 24 pounds, something in that range is going to be fine. Like that'll keep it from reducing fuel, reducing pulse width because of the pressure being too high. It'll also keep it from throwing a fault code, unless there actually is a fault code, like an electrical fault code.
Maybe you guys can see in the mirror. We'll see how much smoke we get with this in the eco mode. So it was actually really clean. I had very little smoke coming out of it. That was about a quarter, maybe just in between a quarter and half throttle. Speed limit through here is actually 35. We're doing just a touch over that. So, really don't want to get on it too crazy. And then with having looks like a brand new white car behind me, I don't want to be that guy that if it does blow smoke, I get soot all over this guy's car. I do have a funny feeling with this in ludicrous mode, it's going to smoke a lot. Just kind of trying it in the driveway and revving the engine, it was puffing some smoke out even with no load on it. So
yeah, it's one of the reasons why we don't have ludicrous anymore. It was completely pointless. So Cummins Killer should be very, very clean in basically every scenario as long as everything is working correctly together. There may be combinations of parts that don't work that way, but it's not because of tuning that's the problem, and we don't offer ludicrous anymore. But yeah, an OBS truck, even in stock tuning, like if you didn't run any tuning at all, an 80% nozzle hybrid will run really, really good, like really clean, really smooth, and daily light, which I think is what he's in right now, is basically stock. Like it's very close to stock, so it should just run great, honestly.
Really curious to see what it does when we get it rolling. So just cruising along 40 miles an hour. I'd tell the truck is still in third gear. It hasn't actually hit fourth yet. We're only doing about 1,800 RPMs. My EGTs are right about 475 degrees, so really not very hot burn. So tells me that it's running a very, very lean tune, which should hopefully help quite a bit with the fuel mileage. The boost gauge is only reading about 1 or 2 pounds, so this engine is not working at all. It's not under any stress, which is really surprising for the weight of the trailer. So I'm going to put some throttle down because it is 45 here.
I too follow speed limits extremely carefully.
Wow, so yeah, huge difference in power just right off of that, because that was just me lightly pushing on the throttle. Then it jumped from 40 to 50. I saw it go to about 14 pounds of boost. My AGTs jumped to about 750. And again, no smoke out of it. So really happy with this tune. It's probably going to be like my all-around, you know, my I guess it's a good name, daily driver tune. All right, so we're gonna get on a kind of hard takeoff here. Yeah, so holy smokes. So I did get a little bit more smoke on that. That was about a half to 3/4 throttle takeoff, and it actually broke the tires loose. That's crazy. All right, so I'm gonna get on it here pretty hard. So there's wide open throttle. We do have some smoke coming out of it. Oh yeah, and I don't know if you heard it kind of hiccup there, but did kick the check engine light on, and when I looked over at the boost gauge, it was at 35 pounds of boost. So I guess that answers that question of how much boost does this put out. So probably gonna have to get a I know on the internet it's called a boost fooler. I absolutely hate that name. It sounds like a fake made up.
I agree with that. It's a bad name.
Name to me. I've always heard of an overboost control valve. I know Riff Raff calls it an OCR. So I'm gonna have to look into doing that, because if this is gonna start, basically what happens when this goes into an overboost protection mode, it cuts the fueling at the PCM, and it tells the IDM to basically cut back the fuel quantity on the injectors to get the boost out of the turbo. So it completely changes what 1023's tuning is trying to do.
Okay, two more things with that. One that I want to add, and I forgot to earlier, the OBS trucks will not throw a 1249 code. It won't do it. It will not throw an overboost code like we talked about earlier. It can throw the fault code, the 0238. That is possible if there's a fault, but it will not throw an overboost code. Won't do it. Also, in our tuning, the way we have it set up, it will also not reduce fuel based on pressure if it did. So yes, I think that he probably should get a boost fooler to keep the map sensor from freaking out, because it probably will at some point. And that's probably what that hiccup was that he saw earlier. I don't know. It's very possible though. But it isn't throwing an overboost code. The code that he threw, and probably the reason why when he gets in it hard he sees hazing like that, is going to be from ICP more than likely. Those are the two things that like will pop a code and shut back off. Is going to be like your overboost code on a Super Duty, not an OBS, or ICP above or below desired. My guess is below desired in this case. I think he still had a stock high pressure oil pump on here. And just because it's got an 80% nozzle or a hybrid injector does not mean that the stock high pressure oil pump will keep up. That's another thing that gets thrown around a lot and just isn't how it works. A hybrid injector uses roughly to inject the same amount of fuel as an A-code injector or a stock injector, uses roughly like 15% less oil to inject the same amount of fuel. But if you increase the capacity of the injector and you're injecting a lot more fuel, a higher capacity, it still takes more oil. So that's probably what his code was there, and probably why he's seeing hazing like that, even under wide open throttle.
So this may have the potential of putting out quite a bit more boost, but the ECM won't let it. So for now, I'm gonna just kind of have to baby it until we get that relief valve. But the initial power kind of got sidetracked with it hitting that boost protection going down the on-ramp. That on-ramp, several times with this truck before, I would just hammer the throttle as hard as I could, banging gears going down the on-ramp, and I could get to about 75 miles an hour by the time I hit the end of that on-ramp. This time, with this trailer behind me and basically having the power cut off for me, I still ended up doing 70, just a little bit past the halfway mark on that on-ramp. So the power output is night and day difference, and again, we're still in the economy mode. There's 3 power stages above this that give us the ability for more power. So this is the hill I was talking about. So I'm gonna set my cruise here to 70, well, I don't want to do 70 with the trailer. So I'm gonna set it here at 65 miles an hour. So my EGTs right now are about 950 degrees and I'm running about 11 pounds of boost. So before, this truck could not pull this hill with a load on it in 5th gear. They would have to downshift and then it would struggle to do about 60, sometimes 55 depending on the weight. So I can tell the engine is under a little bit of load, but we're still in overdrive, still in 4th gear. The speedometer hasn't tapered at all. I'm running 14 pounds of boost and my EGTs are hanging right at 1100. So huge improvement.
So this is despite, like I'm going to say it again. I am absolutely not, like, I'm not complaining about this guy, his videos, his work, anything like that. So don't assume that's what I'm doing here. This just was a good opportunity to explain some things that are just kind of commonly misunderstood. I also know that when you're making a video, like just like this immediate like stage fright, even if you're recording it ahead of time, let alone live. But yeah, when like saying, you can say things wrong even if you understand them correctly. But this is a good example of like a great combination of parts working well together. And that's why we push so hard to get to hopefully educate people on what to buy ahead of time. Like, you know, for a 400 to 450 horsepower, maybe a little bit more capable setup. This is a great way to go. 205/80s, 364.5. So it's a nice combination. It'll tow amazing if you need that. But you can accomplish what he's doing right here with less. But it is nice to visualize that, and I know a lot of people like to look at videos ahead of time so you can kind of get a feel for it. So I do appreciate this style.
On that aspect of it, and I can already hear the engine's coming out of its load. The boost dropped back down. We're at about 9 pounds of boost right now. My EGTs are dropping back down. I actually saw the highest EGT was at 1,050 degrees. And the transmission temp didn't even really get above 140. So it's like the truck didn't even have to do anything going up that hill. It's amazing. I'm so happy with how this is running.
That's a lot of times what we see. Like when you have your first impression of your truck put back together after you add a whole bunch more power, it is such a good feeling to like not feel like you have to work it that hard. And it is really nice too when you've got a setup that works well together, when you've got a turbo and injectors and a fuel system and HPOP, when everything is working well, it just makes for an enjoyable experience. But things like this, like he's impressed with the way that the truck is able to tow, you know, his trailer that's loaded up or whatever up this hill fairly. It's cool. Doesn't have to, you don't have to bring RPMs way up. You can be in a nice, efficient like RPM range. It's nice. It's a good example that it doesn't take, 450 horsepower to tow with, because we get asked that a lot too. Like, I want to make that kind of power for towing. I want to have the power of a new truck. And it's like, well, when you're actually working the truck, you're nowhere near the limit of what like those injectors say that they're capable of. You're going to be, probably, I mentioned like an 80% nozzle with our daily driver tune on here. It's probably right in range with what I typically say a good towing setup is going to be. About what you're going to max out at is around 300 horsepower, probably 300, 325, 350, somewhere in that range. More than likely, he's not going to be able to tow with a whole lot more than that. But you can accomplish that with a smaller injector. Like if your goal is just this, like towing, you want a good experience towing.
So pretty much at this point, even if my fuel mileage stays the same as it was with that 460, which was about 10 miles to the gallon, the power output of this thing completely justifies it. So yeah, with that 460, like I say, it would struggle going up that hill, and it would get terrible fuel mileage doing it. So it was kind of not really good all the way around. Luckily, those trucks have a lot of reliability, so, I mean, that's always a benefit. So I'm going to be going down a street here in just a little bit that it's a little bit more of an industrial street. There's not very many people on it, and it's kind of a long straight stretch. So I think what I'll do is I'll start kind of messing with these other power tunes. My check engine light already shut off, so it tells me that it quit telling the ECM to defuel. So we should be able to have a little bit of play time here.
All right. One more thing about the defueling, overboost, all that stuff. That reduction in fuel that can happen because pressure is too high, that goes away immediately. Like as soon as pressure drops back down, it scales up as pressure increases above a certain point. So it's not like even if an OBS truck could throw that overboost code, even if that was possible, it was in like actively reducing fuel because of pressure, it would immediately stop as soon as that pressure came back down. So it doesn't stay there, even though the code would stay there on a Super Duty. In this case, like I said, it was just because of ICP would be the reason why, more than likely.
Obviously, I'm not going to be able to romp on it too hard. I am going to have to watch that boost gauge so it doesn't cut out, but should be able to get a little bit of an idea of what it feels like anyway. I can tell I got some weight behind me because stopping right there, you know, it's a real slight little downgrade, but I could definitely feel the trailer pushing the truck. So again, this is about a half throttle takeoff with it in eco mode, and I'm running right about 13 to 14 pounds of boost, and that, you know, feels really good actually. It feels like it's got a bunch of power in the eco mode. So we'll do this. We're gonna put it here to the street shredder tune, and I'm gonna kind of just pull over on the side street up here and let some of these cars go by, because I do have one car that came up behind me. Actually, I'm gonna just stop right here in the median. I know it's illegal, but don't judge me. Okay, so from a dead stop.
Well, you put it on YouTube, man. Now it's known. I would do that too, though.
Let's see what we see in the mirror. I'm gonna just kind of half throttle this so I don't have it go into overboost protection again. Holy cow, yeah, so that was half throttle. Little bit of smoke, not too major. Watching the boost gauge, it was hanging out right about 25 pounds of boost, and that it actually broke the tires loose twice. It did when I initially tipped into it, and then when it hit second gear, it did it again. And that was up to 50 miles an hour on that little run there. So we'll do this again. Right now I have it in the Cummins Killer tune, and we'll do that same throttle input, same little run again here.
I would definitely be curious to see live data, like what his injection pressure is right now, because when you can hear it and you can see it, like more, like I'm gonna guess, especially if he was in a daily lights and he had pressure issues, that it's contributing a lot to the smoke output. Because if pressure is too low, I wish I would have grabbed the map ahead of time. I could throw up on the screen here, but essentially you've got mass fuel desired, which is going to be like your pedal command versus RPM, and whatever value, that value itself doesn't really matter, it's arbitrary, but that value is what everything else is going to be based off of. So your pulse width and injection pressure. And so what you command is, let's just say like you command 100 mass fuel desired, that'd be like 100% pedal at a high enough RPM. Then your pulse width and your ICP are going to try to meet that quantity. If pressure is what it's supposed to be, let's say it's high, it's 3,000 PSI, and this is such like a dumbed down explanation. I need to just talk about it correctly one of these days, and I will in a video. But if pressure is high at that same demand for quantity of fuel, then pulse width will be lower. It's going to be a lot cleaner burn. If pressure drops at that same quantity, commanded, then you still have to get that same quantity. So pulse width increases because pressure is not where it's supposed to be. And that causes pressure issues or causes smoke issues and stuff like this too. So yeah, and it's technical enough. It's really hard to try to break down, but yeah, anyway.
Oh, a lot more smoke. There's 30 pounds of boost. And that's 50. Holy cow, and we got a big old vent when I let off of the throttle there. So yeah, clearly runs a lot more fuel through that tune. But again, the power feels pretty solid. So now I have it in the ludicrous tune. We'll do the same thing here. We'll see what it's like. And I feel bad, I got someone walking down the street here, so hopefully I don't smoke them out.
It doesn't matter what he does at this point, it's going to be bad. Like, ICP is not keeping up at all. And so it's going to compensate majorly with pulse width. So it's not going to matter. Also, sorry, they're working with power equipment. I don't know if you can hear that, but making a lot of noise in the shop.
Holy cow, I'm smoking the tires like crazy. Yeah, that's definitely a ludicrous tune. I had to back out of it there. It was spinning the tires so freaking hard. Oh man, we'll have to stop on the way back. There's 2 giant black marks in the street where I was just roasting the tires. I did see the boost gauge was hanging out about 32 psi. Unfortunately, I wasn't watching the EGT gauge. Lots of smoke, lots and lots and lots of power. That was pretty much a burnout all the way through to 3rd gear. I backed out of the throttle when it hit 3rd gear just because I'm not about killing this truck. The transmission in it, I mean, it does have a shift kit. It does have a billet torque converter in it, but I don't know anything at all about the rest of the internals, and I really don't want to go blowing pieces out of it. Obviously got another check engine light because it way over boosted on that one, and that was at half throttle. So I'm really curious to see what this thing's going to be like when I can get that overboost control valve and actually be able to put my foot into it to see what it does. But that is just insane. I think ludicrous is the perfect name for that tune,
and a perfect reason not to offer it anymore. So me personally, I know that it's not cool. Maybe I'm not cool. I don't know, but it makes my stomach churn seeing things like this. It really has nothing to do with tuning itself, especially on an older truck like this. It can have so many problems and so many variables. If you've got a big set of injectors in your truck, you've got 80% nozzles or whatever, like and especially if everything isn't working perfectly well together, it's very likely that it's going to have smoke problems. We're doing a lot of work. We're doing everything we can at this point, especially to try to meet, do everything properly. Like we're trying to meet, federal emission standards and things like that too. And so it just kind of like, makes my heart sink a little bit seeing things like this. But it's the truth of what can happen. So I do actually hope, I don't know who this is, but I hope that maybe you'll reach out to us and we can talk about it too, because I'd love to even have you on here to talk about your truck, because it is cool. I have to laugh though. He said he was doing fuel mileage testing and then spends the rest of the time playing with the truck. It's going to probably not be good fuel mileage. I don't know if he mentions it later, what it ended up being. Not that I disagree with that, because if I had a new setup and it was something to play with, I would have done the same thing. I wouldn't have even tried for fuel mileage. So,
good job, Dusty, and the rest of the guys at 1023. This truck is going to get me in a lot of trouble. I can already tell I'm going to be driving this thing like a complete idiot. Well, not all the time, but when I want to go and try and dust off a Mustang or something, I don't even know if it's that fast, but a lot of it is traction. I think I'm going to have a huge lack of traction issue. Clearly don't think I'm going to have an issue towing anything, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to afford to keep fueling this, because I want to make this my daily driver for everything and get rid of my other car. Holy cow, that's just absolutely crazy. My engine isn't overheating. It's actually running super cool right now. My AGTs are right in check. The transmission's hanging out about 155, 160 degrees. So just, I couldn't be happier with how this came out. And like I say, everything has been working. I was a little bit concerned about doing the dash harness, what kind of issues I was gonna have with that. And everything works. The cruise control works, the lights, the AC, the radio, backup camera, everything. I don't have any gauge issues. Just everything is working like a champ. So I'm just super stoked with it. I mean, obviously the belt squeak is driving me nuts right now, but you know, I got parts coming to fix that. I do still have a couple little things I'm going to tidy up on this. I haven't done the cross member yet. I need to install one bolt for the transmission cross member, and then I need to remove the 4 bolts that are still just sitting in the frame from the manual transmission cross member. But again, to do that, I got to lift the cab up to get those bolts out. And then I have a few little things here and there I kind of want to do. One of the big things that I want to try and do next, when I have time, is I want to do the reverse shackle kit. One thing I did notice, this truck now sits about, I don't know, probably 2 inches lower in the front end than it did with the 460, which I didn't think this engine was that much heavier than the 460 was, but obviously it is. So it does have a pretty bad rake. The front end is sitting down pretty low. So that's going to be on the list of things I want to get done. And I want to do a couple aesthetic things to it to try and make the truck look a little bit better. So holy cow, I'm going to be here for a while waiting in this line. So I'm actually going to call this video quits. I think we got a really good episode ending here, and
okay, so obviously that's the end. There's a lot of stuff I could probably cut out if it was a different kind of video, but you know, all in all, like I said, I appreciate the work that he's doing. I think it's cool. He's done a lot of work. He put a ton into that truck. And then even just the production of video on something like that is a lot. I do want to keep pushing to, I guess, just for education. So many times, that's really the whole boost and ICP thing that we talked about a lot here. I want to get to a point where we can try to educate people better on that kind of thing, because people are going to watch videos like this and they're gonna learn from it. I mean, the guy obviously knows what he's talking about, or knows how to do the work in a lot of things. And I just, you know, when a lot of people watch that, that's how more things that aren't true get spread. So again, I'm not dogging on the guy. I think it's cool what he's doing. And I wouldn't expect everyone to have those answers. I don't like when more people come with the wrong conclusion to what a problem could be, when it's not necessary. So that was the point of this. If you guys want, I mean, if you like this type of thing, just kind of seeing things and talking about it when we see them, I would be happy to do this more. Yeah, we can do this whenever. So if there's videos you want me to watch, we can see about maybe streaming them. If you'd prefer not covering so many things, and like watching like a whole video with like fluff that has nothing to do with what we're trying to talk about, we can just make regular videos about that too. So appreciate you guys watching. If you want to support us, since we're doing this for, well, free, we're paying for it. If you want to support us, you can shop at 1020threes.com. If you have questions about your truck, feel free to give us a call, 1-833-773-1023. Drop a comment down on the video here if there's something, you know, questions that you have. I'm not great about answering them. I probably should go back and work on answering more of these YouTube comments, but yeah, I don't know. Drop them in there. I'll take a look at them. If something that's important, like a topic to cover, then we'll try to add it down the road. But anyway, appreciate you guys watching.